Geez, Jim Ody, who is joining us for an author chat tonight. And start us off with an intro to yourself and your books in case no one's heard of you.
Okay, no worries. Yes, my name's Jim Ody. I'm a multi-genre author. So I predominantly write things like psychological thrillers, which are also kind of bordering on dark mysteries, also young adult, and I'm getting more into kind of horror genre now. Yeah, and I've written 20 books now, so two due to be released soon.
Oh, what two have you got coming up?
So I've got the co-write with ML Rayner. That's called Bloodline, and that's kind of a spooky. I guess it's under the horror genre, but I think it's more kind of a spooky crime, I'd say. And then I've got a so it's called The Last Weekend, and it's actually a folk horror with kind of touching on a pagan commune. So if you read books like The Ritual by Adam Neville, and there's a book called Hex as well, it's out. And also if you think of movies like The Village, if you wrap all those together, that's kind of what I'm going for. So it's it's kind of a work do that's kind of a team building event. That's kind of what I'm kind of going for. And they end up in this commune for the weekend, just to, help out. And then lots of strange and wonderful things happen with missing children, witches, and yeah, all kinds of strange oddities.
You've always had sort of a little bit of the supernatural or twists of other genres in your work, haven't you, though?
Yeah, I mean, what I try and do is I like to explore, obviously, changing genres throughout the books. So I think my books can be quite hard to kind of define as the genre they are. I like to have it that it could happen, like there's a possibility it could happen, or rather, if you flip that round, you can't say that it definitely couldn't happen. So that's the way I like to explore things. I'm quite open-minded to things, although I've got more of a scientific background. I'm a business analyst in my day-to-day job. So, I have to explore things from every angle and understand where there's gaps, how things could happen, how, all the different kind of things that could make something tick. So I think that's why I tend to pull that into my stories, make them a little bit more complicated than I probably ever need to. But yeah, just make things a little bit more interesting.
So what would you do? What's a business analyst do?
You're basically the go-between. So someone will come up with a new idea at work in the office. We have a developer who's obviously the clever IT people. And what I have to do is understand what the issue is, and I have to put it into the form that an IT developer can understand, and also kind of look at the requirements for the project, and then use my own kind of skills to see if there are any gaps in what they're asking for, whether there's any issues with that, any changes that can be done in the future. So you have to kind of know the whole business. But I really enjoy problem solving and thinking outside the box. So that's, what kind of keeps me doing that role, because each project is completely different. And predominantly the people who are coming up with new ideas are looking at it from a very narrow and siloed kind of way. It's specific to their role. And I have to look at that, at how it will affect the whole business. And I'm the UK representative. So we deal with France, Spain, and Italy as well. So I then go on calls with other countries to make sure it works for them. So it's quite varied, and a busy role. But like I say, problem solving and outside the box thinking is what I really enjoy.
Sounds good. Does that help you, do you think, when you're going to write your books? That kind of like...
Yeah, I think so, because you have to think from all different points of view. So for me, character development, you very much have to be wearing a lot of different hats. It definitely helps, I think, to understand different characters, what they're like, what they would do, how they'd think, how they'd act. And of course, everyone is just completely different. And I do quite like the kind of psychology and sociology of understanding how, you know, individuals interact, how they think, you know, what their different motivations for different kind of environments and situations are. So it all helps, I think. And it's all things that I enjoy doing.
You have a little bit of I'm trying to think of the way of calling it, like a gymniverse, don't you, as well? Like all the
Yeah,
books are linked.
yeah. So I've always kind of enjoyed doing that. Yeah, most of it is for my own kind of just to keep me sane and keep it interesting for myself. So a lot of my books are set in a fictional place called Thornhill, and so often we go back and forth from there. I grew up in a place called Thornhill, but it's nothing like how I depict it in my books. I grew up in a place that was a hamlet, so it was just one straight long road, no shops, no pubs or anything. However, Thornhill, I have it. It's a town really. It's quite a small town, but I have it based within Wiltshire. And yeah, as you say, a lot of the characters do go in and out of other books. So as I get more and more books, you know, if I need to go and speak to an IT specialist, then often Jez will suddenly pop up. Um, as you know, Jez actually appears in a lot of my books because he is probably my most favorite character. And all like main characters do make small little cameo appearances in other books. And I just, you know, again, it keeps myself interested. And sometimes that's what a lot of this is about, I think. In order to write a book, yeah, it can take probably 3 or 4 months to write. I have to keep myself interested. So I'm not really very good at sitting down, planning it all completely out because I am so all over the place, back here and there, that I would get bored after, you know, a week or so if I did that. So I almost keep myself in the dark when I'm writing. I have a vague idea, and you know, Matt will be able to tell you from the co-write that we did. You know, there's nothing he liked more than me messaging him, going, "Oh, I've just had a thought. Why don't we do this?" And then you'd be eye rolling, going, "Right, so we got to rewrite that." Then I think, "Yeah, yeah," and you know, I'll have this idea, like complex idea, will just be mapped out in my mind, and that was a nice little challenge at kind of getting over to Matt, kind of, you know, all these kind of different ideas. And he'd be like, "So how does this work? How does this work with this and this and this?" And I go, "Oh no, it's okay, because that's that, and that's," and he'd be like, "Oh right, okay, got you." So, you know, but a lot of it, whereas other people would write it down, with me, it's just, as soon as I think about it, it's almost locked away in my mind and I can just recall it. But obviously working with someone else, that was a new little challenge.
Does Matt write in a similar way to you, or is he a bit more kind of a meticulous planner?
Um, I'd say he probably is more of a planner. His style is different to mine. He's got a very good traditional kind of literature kind of voice, I'd say. He could very much write books at the turn of the century perfectly. You know, you'd read it and you would believe that it was written, you know, 100 years ago. He just has the ability to be able to just go straight into that. So if we've ever got someone who's, you know, a character who's very much like that, then he will just jump straight in with that and it will be perfect, you know, first run straight away. Um, I think I've helped him take more chances in adding a bit of comedy to stuff, whereas before he'd been a bit more kind of reserved with that. Which outside of writing, you know, he's got a similar sense of humor to myself, which, you know, which I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that's why we kind of get on. So it was almost just drawing that out and saying, you know, with this book, it allowed him to be able to kind of do that, which mixed up nicely, kind of bridged the gap between our two styles. And there are, you know, there are parts in it where you don't know who's written what, which, you know, is the idea, and we've kind of merged it nicely, and I think that does work really well.
I'm really excited to read the two of you's work together.
Yeah, it's a book that I wouldn't have written without Matt, and I don't think Matt would have written without me. And I think we brought the best out of each other in it. And it's really good working on a joint project together. That's definitely one of the things that I found. Co-write can be hit and miss. I think with some people, you definitely have to have the right person to write alongside, because it won't work. If one of you is almost taking charge and wants it to be their project, then I don't think it works. But both of us very much was running things past each other the whole time, and we often work at different stages. Matt stays up till like 1 a.m. writing, and so I wake up in the morning to 20 messages, whereas then I'm starting at 5:30 in the morning and I'm replying to his messages and sending him a load, so he's waking up to a load of messages. But that's that just worked quite well for us, actually. So no, it was quite interesting how it worked, and I think both of us were quite surprised at how easy we both kind of found it, and we both motivated each other for the whole time, which was really good.
What remind us the details of your of yours and Matt's book? What dates?
Well, originally, right up to this, last week, it was going to be released at the end of November, but we're still going back and forth through edits. We don't want to rush it, so now we've just delayed it to the 1st of January. We probably could have done it within mid-December time, but mid-December is not a very good time to kind of release a book. So we thought we'll hold off, and then it will be hopefully in perfect working order for kind of the 1st of January. So that's what we're going for at the moment. And there'll be paperbacks and hardbacks.
Cool. Have you got a launch idea planned? Sorry, I lost you a bit there. You broke up a
little. No worries.
It was great.
We haven't got anything big necessarily planned. We might do something up in Stoke where Matt lives. So yeah, we're not 100% sure on that yet, but I think there's a lot of people I know who are interested in paperbacks and hardbacks. So we might try and do something where we can obviously get together, get them both signed. That's the idea. We'll have both our names in them to try and get signatures on both, and yeah, do something. Maybe someone through. Well, I guess it'll be kind of January now.
Sam says it sounds like it's working really well, but she thinks if she wrote with somebody, she'd drive them mad.
Well, I think you need to understand the other person, and that's all it's about, really. And yeah, it doesn't work for everyone. So I think we're probably quite lucky that way. I'd probably find it harder writing with someone else now, I suspect, but who knows?
Would you be keen to try another co-write with someone else?
Yeah, I probably would. I mean, this has definitely been a positive experience. I think one of the main things is probably that you will end up writing a book that you probably wouldn't do yourself. Because when I set out to write a book, it's a book that I want to read. So everything is very geared up to what I want and what I find interesting. So having this, another person as well, obviously their ideas of what they like to write, their styles, what they want, where, even where it's set, or even the genre can be completely different. And it's nice to kind of take a step back and just see that as more of a challenge. So as long as, both of you are quite willing to listen to the other person. And I think the massively key part is you're not afraid to tell the other person if you don't like where something's going or what's been written. Complete honesty is really the key with it. It's like anything, if we're not completely happy with the book wouldn't be released. We've written the book now, we both really like it, and that's been key for the whole time. We've gone through chapter by chapter and have said, are you happy with this now? Do we need to add something? Is there too much here? And we've really broken each bit down, right? Even things down to names of people, names of the places, occupations of people, everything, we've kind of gone through it just to make sure we're both completely happy with it, because at the end of the day, it's a joint book, it's a joint effort, and that's the way, you know, I think it's best to be. So as long as two people are like that, then it can work really well, and any two people can write together, I think, but you just have to both be open.
Do you think there's things that you've learned from that kind of process that help you when you're writing on your own?
Yeah, I mean, I probably plan a bit more now. Like I've seen the importance of doing short-term planning, I think, rather than the kind of long-term, because that's very hard for me to start a book and have it planned out completely. But what we tried to do was we had a very rough idea of it, and then I went through chapter by chapter and wrote down what the chapter was and any changes I thought we needed to make, and then Matt did exactly the same, and so we kind of came together then. So yeah, I think kind of short-term planning is definitely the kind of the way to go, to really understand where things are and what you need to do. And having two people, you know, that's quite a key point, because they don't know what's going on in your mind and you don't know what's going on in theirs.
We've got some hellos. We've got some hellos from Laura, Sam, and Sarah Blackburn.
Hello everyone.
Before we got onto your co-writing, we were talking about you sort of having that shared universe. Jez is my favourite character as well, by the way.
Excellent, yeah.
Brilliant. Where your characters sort of come into all of the books. How do you keep track of that?
Very, very badly. I've got little notes in notebooks. I will be forever turning around and picking a book and flicking through and thinking, right, so what do they look like again? How are they? You know, what are some little quirks that they've got? So yeah, I don't have the world's best memory in the world, so I do have to kind of just keep looking at all the stuff and refreshing myself. I mean, to the point that when I was rewriting, or re-editing rather, A Cold Retreat, probably a couple of years ago now, I reread through it and actually forgot one of the twists, and it was like rereading it again for the first time. And I almost didn't see my own twist coming, and I thought, well, that's got to be a good sign. So yeah, because all of my plots can be quite I put a lot of thought into kind of making them, you know, interesting and what have you, that sometimes I do forget some of the things that are in them, because often there won't be just one twist, there'll be a couple of little twists in there. And so a couple of the little twists I will often kind of forget, you know. 20 books down the line, and probably about 20 short stories as well I've done. You know, it's a lot of characters, it's a lot of stories, and yeah, they all kind of merge sometimes. So it's a very interesting process.
Sarah has said, would it be easier to use a spreadsheet?
Probably. Yeah. Which is funny, because I actually really enjoy spreadsheets. And, you know, when it comes to, you know, book sales and page reads, and I have the best spreadsheets out, you know, they've got tabs, they've got everything there that breaks it down to how much each book has earned me, you know, per day over however many years, and graphs and everything, because the business analyst in me just loves to analyze what things are, because I always think you can't improve if you don't know where you are. So it's good to keep that understanding of how things are going, and, you know, just it's another motivational tool, really.
The inner nerd in me loves this, right? So what's your kind of most popular book then? What's one that's earned you the most? Let's see if it matches up with our favourite Jim Ody book.
The Place That Never Existed has sold the most books. Probably has made the most. I think Little Miss Evil has possibly pipped it at the moment, because I moved from 99p to 1.99 of Little Miss Evil. The horrors sell better at a more expensive price, if you like, whereas the crime are quite hard to sell above 99p for me. If I move the price up, the sales just completely drop. whereas horror seems to be fine. And I'm getting to the point now where actually at £1.99 I can start pushing it up further with those. It's strange how the two separate genres are completely different to how they're I don't know, how people see them and want them. It's very interesting being in the separate circles.
Love Little Miss Evil.
Yeah, well, Little Miss Evil 3 will be. I'll be writing that one come probably the new year. That's the plan on that one. So that's so it's a trilogy. I did toy with keeping the series going after that, but I don't know. I think my mind at the moment is to keep it as a trilogy. So this one, so just anyone who's not familiar with Little Miss Evil is set at a summer camp in Thornhill, strangely enough, and it's the first one basically has a load of people turn up, and there's this strange treasure hunt going on, and they have to solve clues to kind of move around the whole of the camp and its surrounding areas, and lots of things happen to the people as they gradually go from a lot of people to not so many people, shall we say. The second one is a similar, but since things happened to the camp in the first one, they've kind of knocked a load of the cabins down, they've redesigned it, and it's been kind of rebuilt. And we're talking to a handful of people who've been invited to go there and test it out before it's open to the public again. So it's their idea to see what they think it's like. Lots of different people with lots of different reasons for being there, hidden agendas, and once again, the people go from being a lot of people to not so many people. And then the third one will be the grand opening of Tall Trees Camp again, and just really what happens from there. And we'll hopefully kind of conclude. You might see some old faces appear. And yeah, I haven't completely sorted out the story of that yet, but it's quite strange. I'm always quite chilled before I start a book, even something like this, because I know that the storyline will just suddenly come to me. I'll just start writing it. I'll start off with the characters, and then suddenly the whole plot will just almost step out from the darkness into the light, and then I'll get a number of light bulb moments, and I never really worry about them because I know that they'll happen. So I think the less I worry about it and care about it, the quicker they appear. Whereas if I overthink it, then nothing will happen. So I just let it all suddenly happen and hope something does happen. That's the idea.
So we're going to say hello to Mills because she's not feeling very well. So feel better soon, Mills.
Oh dear, get better soon.
And then Laura has asked you for a suggestion for a Halloween read.
Okay, so what, for one of mine or another one?
Well, both. Do one of yours and then one of something else.
Okay, probably Little Miss Evil is probably one of the best ones to start with. It's certainly one of the most popular ones. I can actually show you. This is actually what it looks like. It's there. So yeah, that's quite a good one to start. I'm actually reading a book at the moment by Ronald Malfi, surname spelled Malfi, and it's called Black Mouth, and I'm really enjoying it. It's very It vibes. So there's some, it starts way back in the past with I think it's 3 children all together, and they meet a strange, mysterious character called the Magician, and then it goes back to kind of modern day, and yeah, all these kind of things are back and forth, and they have to go back to the place is called Black Mouth, and I'm really enjoying that. I mean, it's about 450 pages, and I've nearly finished it in about 3 days. So yeah, I'd certainly recommend that. And anything by Grady Hendrix, I'm really enjoying Grady Hendrix at the moment. He's a horror author who isn't particularly gruesome or grisly or even really that scary particularly, but just very unique, and each book is completely different. So you'll find one or two of his books that I think most people will probably enjoy. So yeah,
I
definitely.
literally just finished Final Girls Support Group by
Okay,
Grady.
that's one of the ones I haven't read actually. It's I've got that one, but I've not read it. So
I think it's going to take a while to top Horror Store for me, which is my favourite.
yeah,
But this one may have done it.
okay, interesting.
It's
Horror
very,
Store.
very good.
If anyone's going to read Horror Store, get the paperback, because it is a wonderful marketing. It's done like an IKEA catalogue, and it is just done so well, and it's just a marvelous piece to hold in your hands whilst reading it. It has really been done well. So hats off to him and his publishers, because they do a very good job on his marketing.
Mills has said she loved Final Girls Support Group, and she also said, "Holy smokes, I'm going to hunt down Little Miss Evil when I've got my concentration back." Little Miss Evil got 5 stars from me, Mills, so it's well worth the read.
Excellent, thank you.
And Sam has said, "Any idea of the total body count across everything you've written?" She feels like it's pretty high.
Oh blimey! That's something I'm going to make a spreadsheet of now, I think. And I really have no idea. Yeah, because all of my books, even psychological thriller ones, there's a few people who meet a sudden demise in them, in quite a lot. And I wouldn't say that they're necessarily as gruesome in them, but yeah, I suppose I do go through quite a lot of people, and I know this from when I've got writing a new book, and I'm thinking of names, and I'm thinking I must have used over 900 or 1,000 names, and I'll think of a name and I think, no, I've already used that one. And so it's really hard. But no, I have no idea in body count, I have to say. A stab in the dark must be around 400, maybe. Would it be that high? 20 books?
Oh,
I don't know. No, maybe not that high. Maybe 200. Maybe I'm over egging it a bit. Yeah, I'm gonna go for about 200, I reckon.
good. Well, we'll expect you coming back for Spookfest, right? We might revisit this question and see if you've got an answer.
I think I'll have to read through them all. That's the only problem. I'll have to try and flick through, and I'm not sure I'll be able to find out by Sunday. But I'll have to, maybe Spookfest next year.
Maybe, yeah. Spookfest is like literally my favourite one of our festivals. I'm so excited. I'm driving Sam insane. I was like, I've got a Halloween outfit. I've got this. She's like,
yeah, no, it'll be really good. Brian's brilliant, and like I've said before, to Peter Law's book Purge that I read, I thought was really solid book, and I've got a feeling that it was possibly even you that put me on to him as well. And yeah, like I said, Brian Cave's book, Long Way Home, that was fantastic. Really enjoyed that. That had some Joanne Lansdale vibes to it that I thought was really, really good. So it's really nice to be alongside two authors that I think are absolutely fantastic as well. So that is really good.
it's very exciting to interview 3 authors that are really fantastic as well.
Well, 2 are good. It's just nice to be alongside them.
3 are good. Sarah has said, have you read Dracula?
I haven't. No, I haven't read many actual classics. One of the classics that I probably will read is Jekyll and Hyde, because my eldest is actually reading it for school. So I inadvertently had to buy all the books, because that's what you tend to do. And so I've already said to her that I wouldn't mind reading that after her. So things like that, and Frankenstein I wouldn't mind reading as well. So So yeah, those I think I'd like to get round to kind of reading them at some stage, but as you know, there are just too many books in this world. My piles grow quicker than I can read, as we all understand.
Yeah, it's a sad fact of life. Orbit had a Back to the Future Day sale the other day where everything was half price, and I have too many books now. Um,
Dear.
Dracula, Donna's saying Dracula is great. I've read quite a few classics because when I was little, I used to get the pound ones to make my pocket money stretch further. Not a fan of Dracula.
Okay. Yep.
To be honest, it's one I'd avoid.
Okay. Right.
Although visit Whitby and go to the Dracula experience, that's fun.
Okay. I think it's a bit of a way for me. That's the problem. But if I'm ever up there, then I will. There's a lot
True,
of
but
places I need
Whitby's
to
kind
visit.
of fully embraced like the goth thing. So it has a goth
Okay.
festival, and it's got like a Dracula, because Dracula like landed there in the book, and it's all very. They fully embraced the
Okay. That
vibe.
sounds like something that my kids would like. I mean, my eldest is massively, and this sounds bad, into serial killers, and she'll come in when we're watching something, and I'll say, "Oh, this is about serial killers," and then she'll start rattling them off. Is it this one? Is it that one? And I go, oh, "Not sure how much you should be knowing this," although part of me is really pleased that you do like the same things as us. But yeah, she loves it. She's got books on it. She's sat there watching YouTube. Kind of documentaries on it, listening to podcasts and everything. It's good stuff.
She can help you with ideas for your stories.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Where do you get your ideas from? Because you write a lot of books. What? You just walking along and they come up. Where do you go from?
Yeah, literally that. I can't write the books quick enough. I was a couple of days ago, I was thinking I'm going to have to write some of these ideas down because I've got a notebook with a load of ideas in from 3 or 4 years ago, and I've not got round to being able to write those yet. So there's just so much, like so many ideas I've got, and you know, it's, and that's the problem. I mean, I write probably 4 books a year, which is quite a lot for a lot of people, but I probably have the ideas of, you know, 10 books a year, probably more. I literally have to not sit down and think, else more ideas just come to me. So, you know, things like writer's block is never an issue for me whatsoever. I mean, at the moment I'm writing 3 books at once, and while I was doing, you know, Bloodline, the co-write with Matt, I was writing the last weekend, and then I, for some unknown reason, decided to start writing another book, which is called Blood Red Romance, and you know, that just took to me. So I've written probably 40 or 50 pages of that, which is kind of like, if you think of the Tarantino movie True Romance, think of that with a bit of a kind of a cult feeling to it. So yeah, it's, that might be a novella, although every time I say something's gonna be a short story, it's usually going to be a novella, and if I say something's going to be a novella, it's probably just going to be a novel, because I tend to make things a lot longer than I first anticipate them to be, because I'll start writing, and as you know, Matt will say, I'll then say, oh well, what if this happened in their past, and then that fits in here, and that goes round, and then before I know it, I've overcomplicated it, and it's just a lot bigger beast than I'm first expecting.
Fair enough. I'm going to go back and just check we've not missed anything from the comments.
No worries.
Donna thinks your body count is very high in your books. And she's Dracula's good. She read it for A-level English lit. Apparently. It's better than Shakespeare. I didn't do A-level English.
No, I didn't.
Took me 2 goes for GCSE English, so, you know, I wasn't going to go higher than that. Sam thinks she can't have too many books. Sarah's telling you that Netflix is great for serial killer things.
Yes, definitely. No, we go through most of those. Anything on Netflix, Amazon, yeah, or even
another good
Sky Crime.
documentary.
Yeah, the whole shebang.
Laura's saying The Historian by Elizabeth Costover. It's Dracula related. Was really good. It is really good, especially the audioback book version. Oh, Sarah's with me on GCSE. To be fair, Sarah, though, most of my GCSEs were a second go. In all honesty, I'm a very bad example. Sam has said that she enjoys the posts that you share. A recent favourite has been to plan for 3 months and see how much can change in such a short time. You're always inspiring.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. No, I like to try and kind of put things on that are kind of, motivating. And I suppose I started doing that 6 months or so ago. I used to do it periodically, but I've had good responses from them. And I think it's just to give us all an idea to think positive all the time and look out for each other. And it's that sort of thing. We're not in competition with each other. And even if we're doing similar things, we should never be judging ourselves on other people. Always try and push yourself and be the best person you can be. And that's what I try and explain to the kids. I've got 3 kids, and I always like them to think of the subjects that they enjoy doing at school and focus fully on those. It's all well and good having certain qualifications and what have you, but if you're only going into a job because you think you'll get a job through it, or because you think you'll get a career, but you're not necessarily going to enjoy it, for me, you're in work a long time, and work is something that you have to really enjoy. And so, my kids are quite creative, and it's very easy to say, don't go into anything creative because there aren't always jobs and opportunities. But if you can earn enough that just covers the bills and keeps you happy, that's the most important thing. It's a lot better than being pushed into something that you can earn a lot of money in, but often it comes with a lot of stresses. And stress isn't good for you at all. So a lot of well-being, looking after yourself, looking after others around you, I think those are the key things in life. And I'd always say that to people. Likewise with books, read the books you want to read. Don't read the books you feel you should read. Just because other people go on about some books, it doesn't mean they're necessarily the right books for you. So find what you enjoy and just kind of go with that. That's what life's all about, I think.
True. I think find the people who recommend stuff that you like as well.
Yeah.
They're the people who I listen to for book recommendations. The people who
Very
read
much so.
some stuff and go, I love this. And I'm always like, yeah, I like those too.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So I'll buy the next thing they recommend that I haven't read, because I'll probably like it.
Yeah.
You're one of my go-to horror recommenders.
Oh, excellent.
About books, and I'm like, oh, I've not read that one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting more into the horror genre again now, because horror in itself did drop off the radar for a lot of people. I mean, I've said this previously, but I think as we got to the late 90s, horror was very much, the poor cousin that nobody wanted to talk about, and it was shunned, pushed to the side, and it became very unpopular. But actually a lot of those books turned into crime books, and there's a very fine line, because someone going around killing people can be considered horror or crime. It just depends on how it's portrayed and how it's seen, and whether you want to make that person more of a monster than the actual person. And so things like that, there's such a thin line, but that thin line is massive for people to say, I like crime or I like horror. And sometimes there's still a big stigma attached to horror. And actually, I see a lot of people in horror groups now saying, this is the first horror I've read in a long time, and I've forgotten how much I really enjoyed horror. And it's such a wide and varied genre as well. I've read about 40 horror books this year, and I've not read, any that are anything remotely close to the others. They all seem to be very unique and different. So there's certainly something for everyone. But it's what everyone enjoys, really. Read what you enjoy. That is the most important thing.
I think you have sort of issues often, or people have issues marketing books where the genres cross. But
Yeah.
I think that's where they get the most interesting. So I love urban fantasy that's kind of the mix of like fantasy and crime and a more city-based thing. I love horror, and I like things that mix into that, and I like things that are a bit sci-fi-ish and
Yeah.
crimey things as well. But those are the ones that people find hard to market.
Yeah, and I guess that is life, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, a lot of things boil down to money, and the people that make the money and use the money are the people who are looking at things and want to make the money back quickly. And we all know when it comes to publishers, when it comes to agents, what they say is they want what they know, but they want something that's unique. And it's sometimes those are the polar opposites. But it's trying to find that bit that is something new, but something they think they can sell. And often, they're not going to know something that's unique and new because they're not going to have had a market to actually understand sales and appetite and what could be perceived as the next new thing in years to come. And it's a very hard thing, and I think that's why probably there's a lot of indie authors who do well on their own before being snapped up. Now it's not necessarily that big step straight into a big publisher. It's getting a small fan base and kind of building up on that and going for there. And I think there's probably a lot to be said about that as well, because it's quite humbling. You keep your feet on the ground, you understand fully the whole of the market. I've known people who have had big deals and it's been fantastic for them, but they don't really understand what's going on because there are people who are kind of doing everything kind of for them, which is brilliant as long as the sales remain there. But then if they're suddenly dropped, they don't know what to do because they're suddenly out on their own. Whereas, all right, a lot of us would like to be in that position of being taken on by a big publisher. But actually, if you've got the experience behind you to know what to do when, you're putting posts out for a handful of sales and you're replying to every reader and, you see all your readers as people. They're not just a number, or they're not just, something for you to make money from. They're actual people. And I think there's a lot more to be said about that. You feel part of a community, and, writers are readers as well. I think that's forgotten a lot. And I think that's quite important. So I want other authors around me because I want to know about their books and I want to help them, and we are a community together. No one's in competition whatsoever because we all write completely different. So how can we be in competition? I don't want people just reading my books. I mean, what a weird world that would be. You need all that variety. Likewise, I have to read a variety of different genres and books to come up with the books that I come up with. Because if I read just the same books, you just get those books, wouldn't you? So it's, there's a lot to be said about things, and we're always learning. No one knows everything, and we all learn off each other. The authors that I help through Question Mark Press, I still learn off them as much as they are learning off of me, and I'm not the guru at all. I've just got experience in what I've done. And so other authors come in, they're new, they release their books and they sell really well, and they'll sell more books than I do. And that's because they're good authors that just haven't got the experience and have just needed to be pushed in that right direction. And that's all we try and do. You take someone who hasn't got the confidence and they haven't got the understanding of the market, you give them those tools because they're already a brilliant writer. It's just they need maybe a beta readers and an editor where they've not had that before, who've told them some things that they might not be doing right. But they've got the basis of being a fantastic author themselves. They've got that. I haven't given that to them. They've already got that, and it's helping them. And then, what I always try and do is they will release and self-publish their books, which is what they do through Question Mark Press. We don't take any money I don't take royalties from them. We don't take a penny off of anyone. It's just purely, all we're doing is helping them self-publish. And then the idea is to then push them on to not push them. That doesn't sound right. encourage them to go to another publisher after that, because, you know, they should be outgrowing what we're doing. And, you know, a lot have done that in the past, which is fantastic. And there's nothing that makes us more prouder than when an author who is low on confidence comes in, rebrands their stuff, or, you know, opens out to a new audience, and then they do well and move on.
Good answer. Someone said thank you for your great advice. Yeah, I think you've been asked for advice if someone wanted to write a story.
Okay, yeah. I mean, the best thing with writing and anything I can say is read the books of what you're looking to write, to really get an understanding. Just keep writing. You know, you will write a lot and you will go back and cut a lot of that out, but that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. And it's basic things to remember. Just remember your senses. So touch, feel, smell, sight, sound. Those are the things you need to just think about with your characters whenever they're going into something. One of the best pieces of advice I was told was a story needs to always keep moving. If you've got characters or scenes that don't add anything, then just remove them, because you don't want to stall the reader at all. You want to keep that rhythm going. So always keep going, you know, like that. And there's different structures, whether it's short story, novellas, and novels. And so it's getting an understanding of which you're looking to write and then how to do it on that. So a short story, as it says, needs to be short, needs to be snappy, to the point, and have a bit of a twist to it. You know, novellas are very tricky, and a lot of people fall into thinking they're easy, but they aren't. You know, you should never write a novella because you don't think you can write a novel, or because you're just trying to extend a short story. So really have a look at what you're trying to do. And anyone who wants to, you know, drop me a message or anything, I'm more than happy to answer any questions to anyone at any stage. You know, it's not a problem to me. I'd rather help people than people not know what to do or where to go and waste time themselves.
Which is why you're so excellent.
Well, when I started, I asked a lot of questions, and, you know, people did help me. And I've always had that same mentality since. You know, I'm not an expert by any means, but I can hopefully help with some pitfalls that I've fallen to previously, which will save you money and save you time. You know, it's as simple as that. Things shouldn't cost you money. Going to people that charge you isn't always the right thing. There is so many people out there who are willing to give free advice, because, like we say, we shouldn't be in competition at all. You know, so I want fantastic authors out there. I want people to be writing. You know, it helps the world to have more writers, to have more books, to give us things to do. Really, it's books for my kids to read as well. So, you know, it's win-win in my book.
Simon said, has everyone who was important to your characters made it into the books, or have you had to merge or remove characters that you loved?
I wouldn't say I've removed characters I've loved. There are characters I've taken out, but often I will keep them and they will appear in another book, slightly in a slightly different guise, I guess. But no, I think if I like a character enough, I'll make them work. I'll change the story to fit them. Simple as that.
Love it. I always like your little sort of nods to yourself in your books as well. You're a bit of a Hitchcock, aren't you? There's always a reference to someone reading one of your other books.
Yeah, and they always hate it. That's what I always do. I think pretty much every single one of my books, they'll either find one of my books discarded somewhere, or someone will be reading it and they'll berate myself and say how awful the series is, how awful the author is. And yeah, again, it's just a little poking fun at myself. If you can't poke fun at yourself, then who can you? That's what I say.
Kind of like your little signature as well. So if you're used to reading your books, you'll go and look for those kind of little references.
Well, yeah, and you know that's the other thing as well, isn't it? Of course, if you put those little things in, it does plant a seed for people to think, oh yeah, I wouldn't mind checking that out. So a little bit of self promo within your within your own books. even if you're telling the reader that it's awful, not to bother.
But they might not believe that.
No, well, we can always hope.
Have you I've lost my thread now. You threw me. It's going brilliantly. Smooth interviewing still. So for anyone who's new to you, so I'm imagining people like Sarah who's watching is quite new to the group and might not have read your books before. Where would you say is the best place to start?
Often I say with Lost Connections, which was my first book, mainly because I think it's quite I was going to say harmless, but I don't think that's quite the right word for it. It's quite a nice book I'm not pushing boundaries so much in that, whereas other books I probably do. So I think it's good to have an understanding of how my humor works within it and how the characters and the story builds, whilst also giving probably an unexpected ending to that. So that's probably one of the better ones. If you want to take a bit of a risk, then the Place That Never Existed is always a good book to read as well, I think. Most people love or like kind of 80-90% of it, and then the ending is quite a Marmite ending. You either like it or don't like it. But I can't really say too much more with that.
Don't give any spoilers away. This is always, so you're writing 3 books, right? So this is a good question for you that some used to like to ask, which is, can you tell us about the most recent scene that you've written without giving away a spoiler?
Most recent scene, the most recent scene would be in The Last Weekend, and that was so they're out in a forest at the moment, and they are cutting down a load of branches and brambles, and it's going to actually be set on fire with a witch effigy in the celebration of the town. Now, the forest they're in is actually the forest for the commune, as opposed to a forest just far off, which is known as the Forbidden Forest, and no one's actually allowed in there because anyone that's gone in there has never returned. So yeah, that's the most recent scene, which I was writing earlier this afternoon, actually, whilst locking the kids in their rooms with their electronics.
We're going to go for a quick fire round now. So Donna has said, are we any closer to the next Joel Baxter yet?
In a word, no. Mainly because I haven't started it yet. I mean, on the plus side, I've got the cover for it. I haven't got a title, and I've had the cover for about 2 years, so you probably shouldn't read too much into that. So no, like I say, there's Bloodline coming out soon. There's The Last Weekend, which will be coming out in January, I would say. Blood Red Romance is probably going to be a novella, which will probably sneak out kind of February time, and then I'm looking to go to Little Miss Evil 3. So depending on my schedule after that, no doubt I'll have had ideas for 2 or 3 other books by then and would already have started writing something else. I really want to start writing Joel Baxter. I honestly I do, but yeah, we'll have to see.
And Mills has said, what's the least complicated book of yours? She wants to read one ASAP, but her brain isn't working well for complicated books.
Least complicated. One of the books that I'd say a lot of the reviews say it's a fun book is Mystery Island. So that might be one of the least complicated. Jez is in that as well. He decides to follow a couple on holiday for reasons best known to himself. And yeah, they just get caught up in lots of strange hilarity in an island just off of Maui.
Yeah, Mystery Island's a good recommendation.
Yeah.
Donna has said she's dying for Joel Baxter. If that persuades you to write it any faster, I do not know, but I'm going to help her out by reading the comment to see if it encourages you.
Well, the more people that ask for it, the more likely I'm to write it after Little Miss Evil 3. So yeah,
If
if anyone really loves it, yeah, then keep messaging me and I will write it.
Maybe don't tell them that, because now you're going to get inundated by messages.
But yeah, if people haven't read the first one, it's called The Crazy Season, and as Donna will tell you, it has naked yoga in it. So as you do.
As you do. It's different. How open to bribery are you? So if Donna wanted to bribe you to write that book faster.
I'm always open to bribery, I mean, we all have ends to meet, so I have 3 kids to raise. That costs me a hell of a lot of money. And they're at the age now where they call me when they're out asking for me to transfer money into their accounts. So there you go. Or they tell me they can't eat. Very dramatic.
Apparently naked yoga is not the only reason that Donna loves that book, and Mills has said naked yoga, I'm mad. I feel like naked yoga is a whole thing that nobody needs to see.
Who knew when I wrote that scene that it would be the defining moment of the book?
Someone said thanks for the interview. She always enjoys our interviews together.
Excellent, thank you.
I think it's because we've just spent half the time giggling.
Yeah, I know.
We'll try and be more sensible on Sunday when it's Spookfest.
Well, we'll try.
We'll try. Can't promise.
No, exactly.
Okay. Oh, she's offered you Greg's to write. No, that's not that's not reason to write plastic. That might go the opposite way.
My son would like that. He's got a Greg's sweatshirt.
From Primark.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, he was desperate to have one of those for some unknown reason. So yeah, you could have him actually if you want, Donna. So I'll mail him out to you.
Just gonna share.
Yeah.
Someone said she's promising nothing for Spookfest for Sensible. Give everyone a reminder. So if people want to buy signed copies of books, can they do that from you? It's coming up to Christmas.
Of course they can. Yeah. Yeah, just message me, really. Any of my books, I think usually about £10 signed, including postage. Yeah, just send me a message and I will send them straight out. If anyone's anywhere near Swindon, weekend like after next, on November the 5th and 6th, then I'm actually at the Hilton Hotel selling signed books there. So, and I'm actually in Bert's Books in Old Town Swindon tomorrow night at a Halloween party, signing books there as well. So it's the right season for horror authors.
Why have you not dropped both of these events into the group?
Because I am probably the worst at self-promo ever. Self-promo and marketing is something I'm extremely poor at.
So when we finish talking, you're going to go and post both of those events. Yeah. That's approved by me.
Excellent. Yeah, will do.
If people are there or in that area, they can go.
Yeah, excellent. Sounds good.
Have you got any other events planned, or just those two?
Just those short term. I think next year I'm at Birmingham doing that. There's talk of Stoke, and then I've signed up for the year after 2024 at Shrewsbury. So yeah, slowly. I spent many years not doing anything at all, leaving my house, and and I'm really trying to embrace getting out and trying to sell my books now. After spent years of writing them, yeah, I am trying to. And the more I've been doing stuff and doing interviews and Zoom calls with work, I'm not quite as scared of everyone as I used to be. So it's it's a lot easier now.
You always come across like really expressive and interesting, so be more confident.
Yeah, that's because I stay in all day not speaking to anyone, so it all builds up.
And on that note, I think we need to finish. So thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for all the questions.
And we'll see you again on Sunday.
Yes, indeed you will.
Donna has said they love